This video is about filters, and I'm not talking about Photoshop filters, I'm not talking about Instagram filters, I'm talking about real physical filters that we can put on our lenses. And specifically, this video is about the 3 essential outdoors photographers filters. My name's Pete, I like pictures. You can find mine on my Instagram. That is TVOOM Photo, TVOOM Photo in one word. Or of course, you can also look at my Tumblr, which is TVOOM, TVOOM. Let's start. Disclaimer and full disclosure, I don't get paid for this video, but I was approached by the wonderful people of K&F Concept. They asked me whether I'd be interested in using one of their products in one of my videos and then keeping it afterwards. So I said, yes, sure. And they asked me, what can we send you? And since I was planning on doing a video on the 3 essential outdoors photographers filters anyway, they sent me this terrific little package consisting of, indeed, the 3 essential outdoors photographers filters. And not only that, it also contained a professional cleaning pen. I never used a cleaning pen in my life before. So far, I only used microfiber cloth, so I'm really curious. Enough rambling. Let's start. Let's start with the king of all filters, a filter that I use all of the time. And if you look at my Instagram, for example, or my blog, in like 80% of all outdoors photos, I used this specific filter. Which filter am I talking about? I'm talking about the polarizing filter. What is it that makes polarizing filters so amazing? Very simply speaking, what polarizing filters do is they allow us to see things we couldn't see without them. What do I mean by that? Polarizing filters filter out reflections and glare. And the probably most impressive way to demonstrate that is on water's surfaces, when we can suddenly see through the water's surface. But also on trees, for example, leaves on trees or on grass. Suddenly, by the use of a polarizing filter, the green immediately becomes lush and vivid and just overall more appealing. You will notice that we can turn the front element of a polarizing filter, so we can basically dial in the strength of the effect, which is pretty cool. So we can go for a more subtle effect and we can go for a stronger effect. With the help of a polarizing filter, we can also make the sky in our photos look more impressive. The blue really dark and punchy and the clouds really impressive. And that by reducing the amount of glare in the atmosphere, by filtering out the reflections in the atmosphere, and so getting a really vivid and punchy picture. Polarizing filters are most effective in a 90-degree angle to the sun. And if you're like me and have no idea what a 90-degree angle to the sun means, it's very, very simple. Just point with your index finger towards the sun, stick out your thumb, and then rotate your wrist. And everywhere where your thumb points to, that's where the polarizing filter is most effective. Currently the sun is there, so the polarizing filter would be most effective in the ground, so it doesn't really help us a lot in this situation. Or in this way, right, against the stone wall, also not very helpful. So right now, polarizing filter, not really useful. The second essential filter in every outdoors photographer's camera bag, at least that is how I see it, is an ND filter. What are ND filters? ND filters are basically shades, sunglasses for our lenses. All they do is to reduce the amount of light that enters the lens. They don't add any color tint, they don't polarize anything, right? All they do is to reduce the amount of light. Why would we want to do that? Well, in some cases, we simply have too much light. So specifically when shooting with very fast lenses, 1.8, 1.4, 1.2, and shooting wide open, so really with the maximum aperture to get a shallow depth of field, we sometimes run into trouble with our cameras which do not provide us with a sufficiently short shutter speed or exposure time to be able to shoot with such wide open apertures. So ND filters to the rescue. And this is a problem vloggers know just too well. As vloggers, as video shooters, we have to stick to specific shutter speeds, and so we often run into trouble that there is simply too much light available outside. So again, ND filters to the rescue. The last of the three absolutely essential filters that belong into every outdoor photographer's camera bag, TM, is the UV filter. And I am aware that the UV filter is a quite controversial filter. There are basically two types of photographers out there. There are photographers who say, I would never ever put a UV filter on my lens. And then there are those who say, I always have a UV filter on my lens. And I have to be very honest and say, I tend to belong to the first group of people. I am not a fan of UV filters, but I nevertheless think they are essential and everyone should have one in their camera bag just in case. Why is that? Let's first talk about what UV filters do. On a digital camera, they don't do anything because digital cameras have built-in UV filters already. So ideally, on a digital camera, UV filters have no effect whatsoever. Why did I say ideally UV filters have no effect? Why do some people put UV filters on their lenses? And why did I say that despite having no effect, UV filters are essential filters? We have to be aware that whenever we put a filter on our lenses, that we add one more layer of glass that the light has to pass. So this is one more layer that can lead to light refraction and light diffraction, which can lead to a loss in image quality. So ideally, a UV filter has none of these effects that lead to visible image degradation. Most people that I know who use UV filters on their lenses use them as a layer of protection for their lenses. And I have to be super honest and say, I'm not really convinced. If we look at the front element of lenses, they consist of super thick, very massive glass. So I couldn't imagine a force strong enough to damage this super thick, massive piece of glass be lessened enough by these thin pieces of glass of a UV filter. But please don't take this as the gospel. Do whatever feels right for you. Just be aware that UV filters can lead to image degradation, specifically when the light is very low and hits the lens from the side. It can lead to ghosting, it can lead to double images. Just be aware of that. What I use UV filters though, and I use them frequently, is whenever I'm in environments that are super dusty or dirty. So whenever I run into danger that dirt gets on my lens, or when I'm on the beach, right, with water spray in the air, specifically, of course, at the sea with salt water. So it's so much easier to clean the plain surface of a UV filter than the curved surface of the lens itself. So I use UV filters for protection, but protection of dust and dirt. Speaking of dust and dirt, this is where the cleaning pen, the professional cleaning pen, as it says on the package, comes to play. And I have to say, I'm actually impressed, and I really mean this. I never had a cleaning pen in my hand before, never thought it would be that useful, but it is really super useful. On the one side of the pen, we have this brush, which allows us to simply brush off dust off our cameras, right? Also the lenses, of course, also the filters, super simple, but that is not all. On the other side of the pen, we have a soft tip, and not just one soft tip, but two soft tips, a round one and a triangular one, which allows us to clean the lenses more thoroughly. We can even get into the smallest crevices of the camera. Also allows us to get even into the viewfinder, which is so hard to clean. If you ever try to clean a viewfinder with a microfiber cloth, you know what I'm talking about. So very, very cool. I'm actually super impressed. I used this pen for the first time before I started to record, and like within 2 minutes my camera never has been as clean before, like as after using this pen. Super cool, a super cool addition to the already very, very cool set of 3 filters that I would call the essential outdoors photographers and also vloggers filters, consisting of a polarizing filter, an ND4 filter, which reduces the amount of light entering the lens by 2 f-stops, and the protective UV filter. Thank you very much, wonderful people of K&F Concept. I really thoroughly enjoyed using this set, and I will continue using it. And I'm looking forward to using it, to continue using it. Again, thank you, and thank you, wonderful people, for watching. My name's Pete. I like pictures. See you, hear you soon.